If you're a beginner to CAD, that is computer-aided design, but you want to learn how to use it to create custom solutions to specific problems you've encountered, this video is for you. Today, I'm going to teach you how to create the Gridfinity drawer organizer, a design originally created by Zack Freedman. First of all, I want to start by saying that anybody can learn CAD. You don't need an engineering degree, you don't need specialized schooling or education, you don't need to spend a lot of money on expensive software in order to learn and use it as a hobbyist for personal use, personal projects. But the most important thing that you do have to do, and I encourage you to do it today, is install the CAD software. So many people are just going to watch videos and not install the software, and the only true way to learn is just to open up the software and play with it yourself and try to solve a real problem that you're working on. The software that I recommend for people is Autodesk Fusion, and the reason is it runs on Windows, it runs on Mac, and you can get a free personal use license for it. They have a paid version that comes with some additional features and that can be used for commercial use, but if you're using it for personal use, educational use, the free license works great, and you'll still have pretty much all of the features that you would need as a hobbyist, and the limitations are very minimal for what you're going to need it for. And if you are looking for a free software that you can use for commercial purposes, let's say you're going to build a business around the designs you're creating, then you could look into a tool such as FreeCAD. It's fully open source and therefore can be used for commercial use. Also, you don't need to pay for a license. I'm not as experienced with FreeCAD, but I know that is an option that's available. That being said, let's jump right in, and I'm going to teach you how to design the Gridfinity drawer organizer. Let's jump over to the laptop. All right, here we are. So first of all, I want you to understand what the Gridfinity drawer organizer is. So I have a picture here. It is this system of bins that you can put into a drawer, and they use this grid pattern on the bottom in order to align these rectangular bins, and you can use them to fill up a drawer with different size bins that hold different items. You can see right here, very useful for kitchen drawer organization, and that's what this image is showing you. And something that a lot of people use there are these online generators where you can go in and input like the grid size that you want. So this would be like a 1x1 box, but let's say we want like a 5x3. You go in, you specify the height, the different parameters that you want, and you could just hit render and create an STL file that you could then 3D print. However, most of these online editors are limited to rectangular shapes. So you can see 5x3 rows by columns. There's no way to generate an irregular shape. However, there may be a scenario such as this one where you want to store some knives and it would work better with an irregular shape. So you can see that these knives would best fit in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 5x2 up here on the top, but then a 2 grid stem where the handle of the knives would go. So this is not something that most online generators can handle. And additionally, you may want to print a shape that is a little too big for your print bed. So this is a perfect example of where using your own CAD software to generate the solution would be perfect. So there's one more image I want to show you, and it's this Gridfinity design reference. So the Gridfinity drawer organizer is popular enough that people have created these design references. Once again, the original design is by Zack Freedman, so all credit for the design goes to him. But we're going to use this as a reference to design our own Gridfinity drawer analyzer today. And in particular, we're going to focus on these top 2 images in the design reference. And that's because the bottom ones are more for the baseplate design, that grid that lays into the drawer. And we're going to assume that you already have the grid designed, 3D printed, and it's laying in your drawer. And now you just need to create the bins. So up here, you can see the top profile of the bin. It gives you the square dimensions. And what I'll say is that every grid square is spaced apart by 42 millimeters. So every square is 42 by 42 millimeters. And so we make each of our bins 41.5 by 41.5 millimeters. And as it says here, that's to give yourself a 0.5 millimeter tolerance, because in real life, if you make things exactly the size that you're trying to fit them into, everything's going to be too tight. There's going to be some imperfections and it won't fit together. So we're looking at 42 millimeter squares, and this profile right here has a 7.5 millimeter radius on this edge, and that's because we don't want super sharp edges on most of our designs. And then lastly, we can see here that the feature that's in the bottom, once again, that is this grid feature right here, is 4.75 millimeters tall. Now, if we come over to the enlarged design, this is where the majority of the information is housed. You can see we're looking at a zoomed in version of what we just looked at that was 4.75 millimeters tall. Yeah, and if you do the math here and add up 1.8 and 2.15, because this is a, what do you call it, isosceles triangle, because it's 45 degrees. So 1.8 plus 2.15 plus 0.8, that's going to add up to the 4.75 here. You can see this is the exact same thing that we were looking at here, and we're going to use this profile in order to create the grid feature that allows it to sit inside the drawer without moving. And then over here, these circles, I'm going to ignore them for now. They're so that you can insert magnets into your Gridfinity drawer organizer, and we're going to assume in this case that we don't want the magnets in order for simplicity. So really the only things that we need to look at on this side of the design are, well, the 0.8 and the 2.15 are redundant. That's this dimension here, 0.8, 0.8, and then 2.15, 2.15. So really the only thing that matters is these radius edges. We got a 1.6 diameter, so actually the radius is going to be half of 1.6. We got 3.2 right here and 7.5. So that's going to be the radius right here, and right here. So all those outside radii. So we have all the information we need, and let's hop over to Fusion and we'll get started. So the approach that I'm going to take here is I'm going to create a large block of material that has that grid pattern on the bottom. So it'd be like this really large block that we could set in that drawer and it wouldn't slide around. And then I'm going to go through in the top view and cut out that specific shape that we want to hold these knives. So we always start by creating a sketch. And I'll also preface this by saying I'm not going to go over the very basic controls of Fusion. I have a different video that covers that if you're interested, but I'm going to assume that you've opened Fusion before, you know how to rotate, pan, zoom in and out, and that you have those basic skills. So let's go into the top plane with this first sketch, and we want to create our grid system. So I'm going to create a line, and I want it to be vertical. Hit the escape key, create a new line. I want, this one to be horizontal. And you can see I misclicked here, so it's not sitting on the origin, but that's easy to fix. I can add a coincident constraint, and now it sits on the origin. Okay, and I mentioned that we want a 5x2 connected to a 2x1. Once again, if we go back to this knife, 5x2, 2x1. So what I'm going to do is create a grid size that would sit all the way around these knives. That way I can cut it out without worrying about any of the edges. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to create a 4x9 grid. Once again, that's so that the design that I want can sit inside of it. So 4x9, I want 9 tall. Okay, I'm hitting the D tool in order to get my sketch dimension. You can see the hotkey here. So if I hit D, it brings up the dimension tool. And we should be in millimeters. Let me change that. Finish sketch. Normally I use inches, but we're going to use millimeters today. Here it is. It's in document settings over here on the feature tree. Yep, units are inches and ounce mass. I'm going to hit that edit icon, and we will go millimeter and gram. We don't need to set it as the default. We'll just hit OK. Great, we're now in millimeters and grams, and I'm going to go back into the sketch. Here's my timeline down here. This is the sketch I created. I'm going to hit edit, and hit D to bring up the dimension tool. And we said we wanted 9 grid squares, and we know that each grid square is 42 millimeters, so 9 times 42. Hit enter. Fusion will do the math for me. That's 378 millimeters. Now I still have my dimension tool selected. I'm going to dimension this line, and we said we needed 4 grid squares in width. So 4 times 42 millimeters for each grid square. Hit enter, does the math for me. Great. So this is how big our grid's going to be. Now I could go through and I could manually draw all these lines up here, you know, but that's going to take a lot of time, and I am in the interest of saving my own time as well as yours. So we're going to do something called a rectangular pattern, and we select the object that we want to pattern. We're going to start with this line and then the direction that we want the pattern to go in. I'm going to click this line, and now if I grab this arrow, I can drag out the the object that I want to pattern. And we're going to define this as, let's say, just the spacing between each item. And we're going to need a total of 3 lines, but 4 total if you count the starting one. And the distance between each line is going to be 42 millimeters. Did I do that right? 1, 2, 3. I guess, is it 5? Yeah, 5 lines to create 1, 2, 3, 4 grid squares. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, and then it's called rectangular because we could also drag out a pattern in this direction, but I don't want to do that. Oops, so now I just hit Control Z. So get that back. Direction, spacing. For these 42 millimeters. So if you just hit distance 0 for that second direction, then it won't do anything. Oh, and this was 5. Okay, we hit OK, and now we have a fully constrained line pattern in this direction. Now let's do the same thing, rectangular pattern for this line. The direction we want to go is this direction, and the spacing is 42 millimeters. And honestly, we can just visually click this up until it completes our grid, which is going to bring us to 10. Hit OK. Now we have a fully constrained sketch that is this grid pattern. Cool. So let's finish sketch for now, and we're going to extrude up all of these squares. So I could individually click on them, or I can just select them all. We get all 36 squares. And now if I pan my camera around, you'll see this arrow. You can drag this up. We want to be 42 millimeters tall, if I remember correctly. And that is because if I come back to this website, the height is 6 7-millimeter units. So awesome. 6 times 7 is 42. Cool, and I hit enter to finish that extrude feature. It's now showing up in the timeline down here. So now we have a block of material that we could set in a drawer. Great, that's awesome. Now let's go in and design the profile so we can get that grid shape on the bottom. I'm going to need to create a new sketch, and I'm going to put it in this front plane right here. And I want to project in these edges right here so I can use them as a reference. So over here, there's the project include tool. We're going to do project. You could also hit P on your keyboard. Okay, we're going to select this geometry and that geometry. That should be good. We'll hit OK. All right, I brought the mouse highlighter back so that you can see this a little easier. Okay, so we projected in this line. You can see they show up as purple items over here. And now we're going to draw that profile. So we want to keep this handy, and what it's going to look like is there's going to be a 45-degree angle, straight up line, 45-degree angle, straight up line. And we want to orient this. Let's see. I don't want to draw it right here on the edge because I want to be able to draw both halves of this, and I'm going to mirror over a line. So what I want to do, I'm going to pan my camera around, unhide this sketch, and I actually want to project in one of these lines. So I can hit P, project tool, click that line, click OK, and now if I want to look at my sketch, I can click here. You'll see that this line is now showing up in that purpley color, and it's been projected in. So I'm going to start by drawing a line. The line tool can be activated with L, so I'm just going to start using L. And I want this to be a center line, and that's because I'm going to be reflecting around it, and center lines work really well for that. So I've got that center line. This is going to be like the divider between all of the grid squares. And I'm coming back to this profile. Once again, it's 45 up, 45 up. So we still have the line tool selected. I'm going to go 45 degrees up, 45 degrees up. Yeah. Actually, let's not do this last up line. We'll finish on 45 degrees. So hit D for the dimension tool. Dimensioning this angle here at 45, hit enter. Same thing here, dimensioning here, 45 degrees, enter. Now let's add in the dimensions. That first segment is 0.8. So dimension tool, click from this dot to this dot, 0.8. Great. Next is 2.15, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so clicking from this point to this point, 2.15. And then we know that this is a 0.5 millimeter tolerance. So the distance from here to the apex of the grid in the bottom is going to be 0.5. So I'm clicking here and I'm clicking here. And because this is a center line, it automatically assumes I want to dimension both sides of it simultaneously, and that's fine. This is just going to be 0.5 times 2, which is 1 millimeter. Okay, and we're almost fully defined. The last thing we're missing is we need 0.18 is the length of this line right here. And I misspoke. 1.8 is what I meant to say. 1.8, hit enter, and cool, we are almost fully defined. Yeah, the last thing that's not fully defined is this up here, but this is a construction line, so it really doesn't matter. I'm just going to make it horizontal with that dot. Cool, now we're fully defined. You can see the lock symbol right there. And yeah, let's reflect this over our line here. So we select objects to reflect. It's going to be these 3 lines, and it automatically assumes that we want to use our center line as a mirror line, so that's kind of convenient. We'll hit OK, and we've now reflected. I'm going to hide the constraints for a second and the dimensions. So you can see we now have this profile geometry, and let's do this. I'm going to bring the constraints back. I'm just going to make this connect up here. So if I delete this dimension and, oh goodness. Let's go coincidence. Great. That's going to work a little better for our purposes now. And you'll see we'll build in that 0.5 millimeter tolerance when we cut this geometry right here. The reason is this profile isn't showing everything up to the halfway point, and so we're just going to model it all the way up to the halfway point. Okay, so once again, just to recap, we have 0.8 millimeters, 2.15 millimeters, 1.8, and then the 45 and the 45, and that's everything contained in here. 45, 45, 1.8, 2.15, 0.8. This 35.6 is just the spacing between all the grid things. And we'll build that in with a pattern. So I can hit finish sketch. And now what we're going to do is do an extrude. So we're going to turn our 2D profile into 3D geometry, but we're going to do an extrude cut. So click both of these profiles right here, and you'll see when this arrow appears, if I drag it, it starts cutting away this geometry right here. And what we want is, instead of going a certain distance, we just want it to cut through everything. So we can actually just hit all, and it assumes we just want to cut the full length of here. And the objects to cut are the only body that we've created. And so let's hit OK. Oh, it didn't like that. Let's try that again. Oops. Extrude. Hit OK. All right. Yeah, sometimes Fusion does get a little finicky, but cool. We made that first cut, and now we want to cut along all of these lines. So we're going to do a similar thing, a rectangular pattern, but now this time with our features. So we're not inside a sketch. We're just creating the rectangular pattern from here. And we want to pattern a feature. And I can either select the feature here, or I can select it down in my timeline, but it's this extrude feature. And then the axis that we want to pattern over is this line right here. And once again, you can see that if I drag this out, it's going to pattern that feature. We want to pattern, a total of 3, and we want them to be 42 millimeters apart. And we want that to be the spacing between each one. 42, and cool, you can see it sits perfectly on that line. And computation type, identical is probably gonna be the fastest, most efficient computation, so let's hit OK. Cool. Now we got these cuts in the bottom there. Now we just wanna do the same thing in this direction. So I think maybe the best way to do this is we're just gonna create one more sketch over in this plane, and we're going to make it identical to that first sketch we created. So I hit P to project in this line, and this line, hit OK. Now we can use those as like snap points in our drawing. I'm hitting L, creating the center line, go straight up there, hit L, not center line, and we want to go 45-degree angle up and 45-degree angle. Hitting D to dimension, go 45 degrees, enter. This line to this line should also be 45 degrees. And then we know this point to this point should be 0.8 millimeters. And this line to that point should be 2.15 millimeters. And this line is 1.8 tall. Cool. So we got our profile geometry. Just gonna double check that. 1.8, 2.15, 0.8, 45, 45. Okay. And we're going to hit escape to get out of the dimension tool. We're going to mirror. We'll select all of the lines we drew, hit OK. And great. Now we got two profiles. You can hit finish sketch, create a new extrusion, these two profiles, and drag it out. We get our cut tool. We want to go through everything, hit OK. Cool. Now, same thing, we're going to create a rectangular pattern. The feature that we want to pattern is this most recent extrude down here. And the axis is this direction. And we want the spacing between each one to be 42 millimeters. And then we can just hit this button until every spot that we want is filled with the cut, hit OK. Okay, now I'm gonna hide this sketch, something that looks a little bit like a chocolate bar. This is just a big block of material that would be able to sit in this grid right here. Now we're just gonna cut it out into the shape we want, which is the shape of those knives. So I'm going to unhide this sketch, and I'm actually gonna go in and we're going to edit that initial first sketch. So this is sketch 1, right click, edit sketch. And we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 2. And we also want that 0.5 millimeter offset. So we can actually come into this offset tool, and let's actually add some points first. We're going to add some points where we want our corners to be. So we're 2 grid squares wide, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we created those points. Now we're going to add some lines. The reason is when I go into the offset tool, it assumes I want to offset that entire line right here. And we don't actually want that. I'm going to hit cancel. So we're going to add lines connecting each of these points. So when I click once, it starts the line. When I click again, it ends the line. And it assumes I don't want to draw any more lines. So I need to click again to start and end. Click again, start and end. Click to start, click to end, click to start, click to end, click to start, click to end. Okay, now there is a line connecting all of these points. And if I come to offset, I'm going to leave chain selection selected. And if I hover in just the right place, it's going to assume I want this shape that I drew. And now if I drag the arrow, I can create this offset on the inside. And we just want to go, this is on the negative side, so negative 0.5 millimeters, and hit enter. So it's so small you can't even see it unless you zoom in, but this is the amount of space between each of our drawer organizers. Okay, awesome. So what we can do now, I'm going to finish this sketch, is we can split this body into two bodies, and we'll remove the one that we don't want. So if I come to split body, it wants to know which body I want to split. I click the one that we have. And then for splitting tool, I'm going to come on the back side where this sketch actually exists. And I'm just going to hide the body for a second. We click on this line, and you can see that it creates this sort of like red cutting pattern where it's going to split the body. And if we hit OK, and we open our bodies drop down, you can see that we now have, I'm going to hide this sketch, we have a body on the inside and a body on the outside. So we can either just hide this body, or if we want to remove it for good, then we can just right click on the body, hit remove. I would recommend remove over delete. Delete's going to create some problems in your timeline. Remove is going to treat it like that body existed the whole time till this moment when it was removed, and that's going to prevent any issues. Okay, we could say that we're almost done right here, but we want to create those rounded edges on the fillets, and then also, of course, we need to cut out the pocket that the knives are going to sit in. Let's actually do the pocket next. We're going to come back to our original sketch, and we're going to do another offset. Let's click on this inner line, and we want to be offset by the wall thickness, which I believe is 0.95. Oh, I mean, make that negative so it goes in the direction we want. 0.95 millimeters, hit OK. I'm going to double check that over here. Wall thickness 0.95 millimeters, that is correct. So we finish sketch, and now we can do an extrude, and we need to unhide this sketch. The profile we want to extrude is actually on the bottom. I'm going to hide the body for a minute. Yeah, we're going to have to select these each square individually, but it's all of these insidemost squares. And if I unhide this body, you'll see we have a little bit of a problem, which is it wants to cut from the side that we don't want to cut from. So what we can do is do extent type. Let's see, start with an offset. That's what we want. We're going to start with an offset, and we'll make that offset whatever we want the space at the bottom to be. And it needs to be at least greater than 4.75, or we're going to have holes in the bottom of our organizer. So let's do 4.75. You'll see that exactly matches up with where the point of our grid pattern is. And let's add a little bit more. The bottom could maybe be, I mean, we could do 0.95, and that wall thickness will match everything else. That's probably a good option right there for now. And we want, so that's the start. We're adding that offset. And then the extent type, let's just say to object, and let's click the top, so it'll just go all the way through. And now if I hit OK, it is set to cut. You'll see, I'll hide this sketch, that now we have pocket inside that we could fit our knives in. And all the wall thicknesses are 0.95. And it would be easy if you wanted to change any of those wall thicknesses to just go in and edit the appropriate sketch. So lastly, we just want to make that rounded fillet edge. So if we come to modify, fillet, you could also hit F on the keyboard. If I look at this drawing, we know that the outermost edge is 7.5. Then we've got one more inner edge at 3.2 and 1.6. And those are diameters. So if we want to specify radius, first let's click all of these outer edges. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 edges. And it was 7.5 for the diameter. So if we divide by 2, that gives us a radius. Okay, and it's not liking that. What's 7.5? 3.75. Okay, it likes 3. Okay. It's because I don't think we want to select these inside edges, just the outside. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to hit the X here, and we'll try this one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 outside edges. You can see we have 5 edges selected. If we do 3.75, 3.5, 3. Okay, so this is the issue that we're running into. Our wall thickness is actually too skinny right here, and so you can see if we make this bigger, then it starts to cut off to a point that eventually there's just going to be no material there. So let's leave this 3 for now, and let's actually make our wall thickness bigger. If I come back into our first sketch, oops, select this offset here. Yeah, we can make this thicker. Let's do 1.95. So why not? We've got plenty of space for those knives in there. Okay, and now we can come back to our fillet, and we could do the 7.5 divided by 2. This shouldn't give us any problems now. Maybe it doesn't like doing math in there, but 3.75, hit enter. Great, now we've got the fillet that we wanted. The other thing is our bottom wall thickness is going to be really short now. So we want to come back into our extrude and make this offset 1.95 so that our bottom will match the rest. Okay, so we got the fillet there. Now we need fillet here and a fillet there. We can go back in, edit our existing fillet, and if we hit the plus sign, it will, allow us to start selecting new edges. So now we've got 1, 2, oh goodness, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 edges, and I'm just gonna hover over this. It's supposed to be 3.2 is the diameter, so radius is gonna be 1.6. Cool, hit enter. You can see we've rounded that corner. That looks a little weird, but okay. Rounded that corner, and then lastly, if we wanted to, this is kind of getting off into the weeds, this isn't really that important, but if we wanted to, we could round that last one, edit this fillet. Yeah, something about this looks a little weird. If I go and select these 5. Okay, so I selected, cool. So if we wanted to, we could just continue editing this fillet, and just for the sake of showing it, we'll select these final 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is going to be 1.6 was the diameter. Divide that by 2 is 0.8. Hit enter. And cool. Now we've got a nice rounded edge all the way through there, and it matches that design reference that we were looking at. So here you go. This is the finished Gridfinity drawer organizer that's designed to hold these knives here. And yeah, as a first-time CAD user, you could do this yourself. And if this is too big to fit on your print bed, you could always do the same thing we did before, split body, select the body, and then select one of these lines to cut it. Oh, select the body to cut it, you hit OK, and now you've got a two-piece print. All right, thanks for joining me today as we designed the Gridfinity drawer organizer. Hopefully that'll be helpful for you in your CAD design and your home projects. If you have any questions or anything was unclear in the video, please drop a comment below and I will get back to you answering your question. The biggest thing today, if you have not installed your CAD software, do that today. Install it, open it up, give it a try, create this Gridfinity drawer organizer for one of the drawers in your home, and have fun with your CAD and your projects. Until next time.